Welcome everyone to the Hot Take. I'm here today with Blake Compton, founder of Close Quarters out of Columbus, Ohio. How's it going, man?
What is up? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Really excited to have you on. I keep telling people Close Quarters is kind of like our mecca of KQ. I think everyone needs to, take their time to come out, make a pilgrimage out to, Close Quarters to play KQ the way it's meant to be played. Um, so how can you tell me how someone like you manages this, is the CEO of a company that lights candles just for the hell of it, and also balances your new marriage. Congratulations again on
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. Yes, well, balancing is an important thing to all of this craziness that I put myself into. On top of that, I'm developing a building downtown, and it's like my first development project. So that's been really stressful on top of all these other things. So how I manage it, man. CQ is a member-run facility, so there's no employees. All of us are volunteers and make it happen. So it's like it's as active as we as members want it to be active. When I got into it originally, it was supposed to just be a, CQ wasn't even a thing. I just wanted a killer queen cabinet so I could play the game more. And I was lucky enough to have a good year in 2017, and I had a couple of business owners owe me some money, and I said, "Don't pay me money, just buy a killer queen cabinet for me," which is like probably the sign of an addiction. I think I don't know, but and I originally wanted to put it at a maker space, and that didn't pan out. But I'd already bought the cabinets, and the owner of that maker space had this other building, and he kind of felt bad and was like, "Hey, why don't you do your concept here?" And I was like, "What concept?" I'm like, "I just want to play this game." And so for like, I don't know, 3 months after league night, Craig and the crew would come back to my house and we would like talk about what is this facility? What's it going to be like?
Yeah.
And we kind of just built it out of like a evolutionary vision. So like as it's been built, it's been thought about. And so, the first tournament you went to, like it was cool, but there's still some things that we need to work on. And obviously the winter cluster was a wild success, and it was our goal to set the bar. We definitely learned some things that we could do better, but we definitely felt like we showed some people on how to host a tournament in a facility like that. I want to make sure I say that I respect everyone, guys like Jorge and Megan and new guy in Chicago, carrying and lugging all that equipment to stream an event and the tournament and putting all that stuff together and tearing it all down. That's why Close Quarters is so awesome. It's just, you just double click and you're live and you're ready to go. There's a lot more work that gets behind the scenes from a lot of people, but the facility is doing its job. I'm just hopeful we can have a bunch of tournaments there while we have it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And before we get too deep into Columbus and more of Close Quarters history, I just want to get to know you a bit first.
All right,
So
all right.
let's uh let's talk about gaming. We talked a little bit beforehand, and you mentioned that you have a bit of an origin story with gaming. So why don't you tell me about your old Atari, man?
Yeah, like my first video game I got as a child was Pitfall on the Atari. I was 5 years old. I don't even really remember how my parents were okay with me being into video games at the time, probably because they weren't at what presumably as addictive, maybe, for a kid at that age. But and then, I was a Nintendo kid through and through after the Atari and played Nintendo hardcore. And my first like hardcore addiction to a video game was Ultima Online back in '97. I probably played that till about 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, played that a long time. I have a scar from
Oh my God,
hours
man.
of playing on the mouse back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I played a lot of Dota too. So I think that's, and as a soccer player, I think I relate Killer Queen to, the team-based concept of Dota and playing your role, playing your position, and playing for the team. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, since you brought up soccer, we had a question from Aaron Tran. Do you relate your Killer Queen style to how you play soccer as well?
I would, yeah. I mean, I hurt my foot a couple of years ago and haven't been able to play soccer. So, Killer Queen was this like, rebirth of like competitive energy and team-based sports that I had kind of lost from soccer. But I mean, if you go back and talk to my old soccer team, they knew me for stupid things I did, like the back heel. I was known for the back heel as a
Of course.
center back defender. I mean, I would do things I shouldn't do. I was a lot of times called this sweeper striker. I would score goals from defense, and
Sure.
so it's similar to why people, Carlos hates on me for kicking berries in as a queen. I think it's just always important to, bring the flair, even if you die.
Yeah. No, it's all about style points, man.
Yeah.
Someone was asking if you could elaborate actually on why getting the queen kick-ins are more important than actually winning the game.
I think that's one of those old habits die hard. And I can actually relate it to this most recent Charlotte tournament where the Chattanooga players were there, and Friday night they were talking about all this tech that they had that they didn't think, some of them didn't think that the rest of the nation understood yet. I remember my first travel tournament, and I was using all my tech that I had in Columbus that worked in Columbus but didn't work at all on the national level.
Right.
We could talk about when I first started playing Killer Queen, but when I was queening, I ran an 04 Barry team on every map, and I just immediately ledge guarded as queen. And back then it worked because, our queens in our league didn't tag gates.
Right.
So we didn't go after snail. So it just ended up being a berry fight. And with that, I just started to get really good at kicking berries away. And I also was one of the only queens at the time. Me and Craig were the only queens that could scrape.
Yeah.
And so it was really easy to like stay alive and stay away from dying. And most of the time warriors should just fly into you. And I think that habit of kicking berries, I always want to kick the berry in, especially on dusk. I mean, I still to this day, if you go to Camp KQ footage and watch me play, I was like on edge, like ready to die by Cody. And I'd still like stop in a moment and just try to kick a berry in for no reason.
For sure.
On either side too. I'll kick a berry for the other team just to do it.
No, yeah. I mean, I've done that on occasional, usually more casual games than Camp KQ, but to each their own,
Yeah.
That's how it goes. We've got a few more audience questions here.
Right.
A nice, quick little hot take: Arby's or Subway?
Arby's, hands down. That's the only thing to eat if you're on a road trip in the Midwest.
Yeah, I used to eat a lot of Arby's. It's some good stuff. Those turnovers.
It's for me, it's the number. Well, they've changed the numbers, but it's the roast beef. I just get the roast beef sandwich, curly fries, and the most disappointing day in the world is when there's no root beer. When they're like, we're out of root beer.
Root beer.
You need the root beer.
Yeah, no, you're right. Root beer is key to a good Arby's trip. Who's got the best hair in Killer Queen?
Hugo, hands down. When Hugo's got the mohawk out, it's like, I don't even know if it's the fact that it's a mohawk, but it's just like when he gets plastered and he doesn't know where it's at. And it has a mind of its own. It's just poking things and knocking things down.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Hugo probably has that one in the bag. I think last audience question we're going to go through. Who was your favorite member of #XXX Dingers Out XXX besides Garzon, Feldkamp, and Goldberg?
Was there another player on that team? I think that was it. You said, yeah. We just played with 4 players.
Oh, yeah.
Team KQ. Yeah, there was not a 5th.
Nice. Who asked that question?
It was pretty easy.
Jeez. Well, on that note, I think we'll move away from the audience questions. So let's get back into it. I've heard that Columbus went through multiple iterations in the scene. I was talking to some people saying like, yeah, Columbus died twice, but it came back. And I hear you were involved in some of this as well. So if you can tell us the story about Columbus in general, I think a lot of scenes might find some value in how you all have persevered and rebuilt over time.
Yeah, we got pretty lucky that we had a core of 5 players who, one, were decent at the game, and two wanted to travel, and I guess the third one was wanted to keep playing with each other even when we sucked.
Yeah.
That is like you need that. You need a base of 5 to 10 players, but even being able to just travel as a unit and really experience the different styles across the nation is really important. So when I first started playing in 2016, we had like a 6-7 team league. It was a pretty decent size for the venue we were playing at. The bar could really only hold like 50 people. So, and it was pretty competitive, as locally competitive, I would say nationally, but
yeah.
And inviting, in the sense that John, the owner who bought the cabinets, and the whole reason I'm even in this game, John was really good at like bringing new people in and getting them on a team and letting them play. The issue though was that the best team at the time was a dingers out team. It was Warriors hard. They went 2 speed warriors back then, and they really just tried to kill the queen. And there was no strategy, no berries, no snail. It was just kill.
Yeah.
And they were jerks about it. And I don't know if you've met Craig, but Craig and I are a little competitive. And so he and his team was like Carlos, Matt, Thu, rest in peace, and another dude named Dave. And then my team was a couple of friends and a couple of people we met at League Night. But anyways, our 2 teams like rose up in the season 2, and we're really battling. My team was the first team to beat this, and they were called Goon Squad. My team was the first team to beat them. And in season 3, my team went undefeated. My team went undefeated, but like every night after league, Craig would beat my team, like rock my team, because they use strategy, and a lot of times I would just bully Craig into a corner, and we both scrape bounce each other, and we'd run, and my team would outrun berries, and it was like not real actually playing the game. But because of like these 2 competitive teams beating everyone, and then the angry team, the toxic team, causing problems, our league collapsed. We went from 7-8 teams almost to 2 teams in season 4. And by the time we traveled to Kansas City, we had barely 10 players. And then in the summer months of 2016, we were down to, league night, which it wasn't league night, it was just free play night at that point, was 4 people. Yeah. We'd have 2-on-2s, and we would show up on a Saturday night, and we would do 1-on-1s. And sometimes we'd do just fly arounds, just one player flying around for 2 hours. And I'm sure all of us have done those things, but it was the grind out. And it was later in 2016 where we kind of had to sit down, like, hey, we got to change. Like, people don't want to play with us. This is about the time Cincinnati Knicks started showing up. And we just said, hey, we need to make this fun and like buy people drinks if they want to play with us. And we just started building a small crew of people who, like wanted to get better at the game. And I'd say if I'm talking to a scene out there that's like, what do we do? Our scene's so small, like schedule a tournament. It doesn't have to be a big tournament. Take your good players and make them go get their own team. Don't have a super team when you're going to have a 4-team tournament.
Yeah.
We did that, and that was some of the stuff that caused problems. I'm a big fan of growing the scene, but I grow it in my own way, and sometimes that's not the way other people would see the best way to do it. And so we've had back and forths about, or is this tournament worth it? Why are we working so hard on a tournament where all the Columbus players are going to get trashed, beat at the game? And I think that was one of the dips that we experienced, as the 5, where we kind of started fighting. And I also said, like, guys, like, we need to stop playing together for a while, and really try to bring these other Columbus players in, because when we bring a second team and they go 0-2 in Chicago, and they're just getting trounced on, like, it's not fun for them. They might not want to travel. They might not want to play anymore. And, so we need to take some lower, be a lower seeded team, take some flex players, some new players, and think that's those players from that moment to that early or late 2016, 2017 are players that are now showing up. Mitch being an example of one of them. Mitch was probably one of the bright spots for Columbus and Charlotte. Almost knocking Craig's team out.
Absolutely, yeah.
But really just played really well as a queen, and didn't ever really look outmatched. In a head-to-head against any of the queens he played.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What other things?
I mean, what is? Sorry, I was gonna say, what has close quarters done to either foster or dampen the scene? Like, if it unexpectedly hurt the scene in some way, what do you think close quarters has affected the scene?
I think we've all learned our style a lot better. We've understood the cabs. So, prior to being an owner of a cabinet, you don't necessarily pay attention to the joysticks and the buttons other than when they just completely suck and you're like, this sucks. But, when something's broken on our cabinets now, we fix it. And so we're touching the joysticks, we're understanding the switches, the different weights of the switches.
Yeah.
Understanding the joysticks, and I guess, in some senses, that's made us be a little bit more particular on cabinet, buttons and joysticks. But it's also made us understand, the things that are important to making a competitive game really fun.
Yeah.
I would say that close quarters has a long way to go as far as fostering the growth of Killer Queen in Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
We have some players. Really, we use Arcade Super Awesome's Wednesday nights as the place to get players in, and then we try to bring them to close quarters. We have a couple of players now, 2 or 3 now, that have become Killer Queen players because of close quarters. Specifically, Lisa Seward was one of the first. She went to one of our first events, and I don't know about that lady, man. She found the game and was just like, this is awesome. I will see you every day for the rest of my life and on the internet.
It sounds like Lisa.
Yeah. And she's been running a couple of cool female specific events, like just having females come out.
Yeah.
And that's brought a couple of new players who are really interested in the game, and that's been great. But I kind of I wanted CQ to be the competitive league place. And I bet in another scene, a New York scene, a Charlotte, Chicago, it would be that. We just don't have the numbers. One of the things we took home from the Charlotte tournament was, Charlotte started doing league nights again, and they've been building on it. And I think that really helped them level up their team play.
Yeah.
We have maybe on a good night we could get 25 players, and some of those players will never want to play league. They like the mixers, they like the free play. But what we decided to do was, and we're rolling this out, so it might not work at all. But we said, hey, we know we could probably get 20 players. And we know that we need to do it on Wednesday night at Arcade Super Awesome, so people get that there's a thing past just the mixer, that there's something to work towards. But we don't want to make it just about that. So we don't want to have the whole night be league night, because we've seen the casual player not really like when we call a tournament series, which is, we've got a tournament we're traveling to, and we want the tournament team to play against the next best 5 that are there. That's alienating. So this league night's like, hey, come join us, play in. If we have 20 players, we're going to have 2 groups of 4 teams, and they're the same 20 players on both groups, just mixed up. So every night you're on 2 teams,
right,
and you're only playing 1 match each, for each group, and they're 1-month seasons. So it's a way to play a couple of matches a night that are, that count.
Right.
And it's a way to get league night into Wednesdays again, but then also not eclipse what has made it fun for a lot of the players that show up.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful for smaller scenes. I'm hopeful that might be a solution to, add some competitive team play and, build up some of the newer players and show them that there's something else to work towards. Because our growth, started with just trying to be friends with everyone, and then it followed into trying to just have a tournament, just a tournament.
Yeah.
And then, now it's just like we want to see it go to that 40 or 50 player range where we can have an actual league, but it's baby steps. So I think this is a good starting point.
Yeah. No, I mean Columbus has grown just over time. Like it's been good to see everyone stepping up. Like you mentioned with Mitch, really impressive stuff at Charlotte. Is there anyone else you want to like just give a quick shout out to? Just other rising stars in Columbus, just to warn us for who's coming up, and hopefully
To
maybe
warn
inspire
you.
them a bit. Just let them know that they're on your radar.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that's happened, and I don't remember the team composition. The five has started playing again this year, so be afraid of that. But we did get beat when we finally said, "Hey, we're going to play again." We mixed up our roles, and it was like the end of the night, and we were dumb, and this team beat us locally, and that was really when we were like, "Wait a minute, this is not easy anymore."
Good.
And I know Mitch was queening that team. So if Dylan Paul, who's a local player, I doubt he's going to travel much, but he's got a lot of talent. Courtney, I'd have to say Courtney, out of all the players that we currently have in Columbus, puts in the work and really, really honestly wants to become a better player, and not just like a better speed warrior or just a better like destroyer. Like she threw her ego aside and was like, I'm gonna queen in Charlotte, and like she didn't just like nervously decide to do that. Like she spent a month like queening every chance she could get. She was like, let's go, Craig, let's go, Blake, I will queen against you guys. And like she was grinding. She had some like repetitive deaths in Charlotte. But I know like back when I first started like ledge guarding and Esparza kept killing me, like you learn from dying. And I don't think Courtney will ever allow a queen to lip in and bounce her into a warrior death, 3 times in the same spot in a tournament like she did in Charlotte. Because you learn from that. You go, okay, why did I freeze up? What happened?
Yeah.
She is definitely my favorite right now locally. And don't sleep on Lisa.
No, of course.
She's putting in the time and the work too. We do have a new kid coming. I mean, he's completely untested, but he traveled to Cincy, and he was I don't know if it was pro, but he definitely played super high level competitive Counter-Strike.
Yeah, tight.
And his name's Hayden.
Oh gosh.
What, you know about him?
No, we've got a Hayden in New York City. He was he was really big when New York was young. He's
I've heard about
taking
this
his time, but he's
was he one of the top queens at the time?
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah. So Hayden's putting in the time. I mean, he was playing by himself last night at CQ, and he's grinding out, and he's listening and thinking. I mean, I'm sure he's still got 6 months to a year before he's like super vicious, but I could see him being on a team that wins something, and playing the role that he needs to play, because he definitely sees the game the way you need to see it to be a top level.
So you mentioned a bit about the 5 playing together again this year.
Yeah.
Do you mean back in Columbus, or do you mean you're going to start traveling with that squad again?
So we can now say every year, because I did the same thing last year, where at the beginning of this year, I'm like, look, these first couple months, let's test things out. Let's do things.
Yeah.
I really wanted, last year was the first tournament I ever queened in, was Camp KQ. And I don't know how many queens in the nation can say they've beat Domish, Dre, and Cody in one tournament, but I think that might just be me. I know Cody beat me, and he beat me because he's better than me, but and we were also on his home turf.
Yeah.
I definitely wanted to queen more. I want to queen more and see how I do on the national circuit. And being honest, like, I haven't done that great thus far. I've definitely learned some things. A lot of it's team chemistry. I think when I rewatch my footage, there's stupid things I could do.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good things I'm doing, and I think some of it's just like how we're communicating, or I think we're overthinking some things and not making it simple. So I'm going to be queening in KQ24 with a whole Cincy squad, and I'm queening Monsanto in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think in 25 it'll be the 5, and then we might take the 5 to a Midwest Champion Series, and we might try to host some kind of invitational where the 5 plays locally.
Yeah.
That's yet to be decided.
So this brings up a few different points I want to jump on.
Yeah.
You mentioned in our shared doc beforehand that one of Columbus's goals is to really foster the Cincinnati scene.
Yeah,
and I've
absolutely.
seen you've had these mixers. What is it? Cross pollination, I think you call it.
Yeah.
How have those been going? I know you've done, I think, 1 or 2 of them.
Our second one is this Saturday.
Oh, cool.
So the first one in Cincinnati was what I would say a success. It was I want to say their first streamed event. So when these new scenes are coming on board, and I'm seeing Charlotte and Chattanooga do the same thing, it's really important to help them and support them, and give them a reason to play. If you've got 10 or 15 players, it's hard to have a tournament. But if you know 10 or 15 players are going to come from the closest city to play with you, it makes it a lot easier and a lot more fun.
Yeah.
So our goal with the mixers is really to just mix the players up and do a equal draft tournament, kind of like Chicago does every other month. And we're looking at probably 6 teams for this Saturday, which is our goal. Our goal was 5 to 6 teams the first couple tournaments, and but we're seeing new faces. The Cincinnati tournament, I had a player on my team who had never played until that day. Mm-hmm. We had 2 or 3 other players that were in the same boat, but their bar did a really good job of advertising. They had big banners and things all over the bar that were talking about the tournament. So
yeah,
I think shout out to any scene that is close to another new scene. Like, reach out to them. That's something that Lisa's been great about. She's been helping Morgantown. And I want Morgantown to be involved in our tournaments too. I think they are just taking a different approach on their tournaments. They're doing them on Wednesdays, and it's like that's when we play, and so it makes it pretty difficult to travel and want to play in that. But so the Cincy scene has Cincy Nick, everyone knows him, and he's really had to queen, because he's the best player in the scene. But they've got Bobby and Spencer who picked the game up really quick, both competitive video gamers and their own right, different games. And then we have Cincy Joe, who's actually from Columbus, but he's been permanently labeled Cincy Joe. He actually was labeled Cincy Joe in Charlotte, and he was like, "Who did this?" Yeah. And so he'll be labeled Cincy Joe in Chicago as well. But those guys, they're going to be a fun team. They got a lot of energy. They're the team I want to play with. They're the kind of energy I like. The kind of, I call it a healthy, fun, toxic.
Sure. How do you ride the balance there? Because I don't know. I feel like some scenes are facing a struggle with having fun and joking around, and this kind of try hard capacity. And sometimes when those two come together, you get something that is really toxic. How do you think navigating these spaces? I mean, and you can just give me just get good at being friendly. How do you think we are at navigating these spaces, and what can we do to do it better, I guess? Right.
I mean, Killer Queen is an innately social game. You can't be an asshole. That's just it. You can't be an asshole. Now, but being an asshole to yourself or to others is so subjective, and maybe you think you're being cool and someone else doesn't. And so you have to learn through those friction points. And I think the Killer Queen is great if you take it for what it is, and that people are going to get bent out of shape in a moment or a night or a week. And but if you're both dedicated to the game, you have a common interest and a common love, and you need to work past those problems. Yeah. I mean, me and Craig I don't know how many times we fought at league nights back in 2016, 2017. And we used to scream and cuss at each other and walk out. And then we'd see each other 2 days later, or we'd text and be like, hey, you want to play tonight? And it was just kind of like we knew we were going to fight at some point, and we just knew we were going to see each other the next day. So we just kind of moved on.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, be willing to apologize. Be willing to know that sometimes some people are just having a bad day and they're going to be mad. And you don't have to take it personally. And that you can just kind of just keep playing the game. And if you get too bent out of shape, go home and sleep on it and wake up in the morning and, like try to apologize and get on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Or another way to do it is every person in your life create a new Facebook group for. That way you only have one-on-one conversations in your Facebook groups.
Well, before we step on any CIN's toes, let's move on to another organizational structure that should have a Facebook group, the Midwest Championship Series.
All right, let's go.
So I mean, I have, I've got my eyes on this, and it's not because like I'm butthurt about not being able to play, maybe, or it's not because like I don't know, I have a really vested interest, I feel, in the MCS being successful, and because I think it can be a model for the future. So is there anything you can share about the MCS with what's upcoming? Because April's coming around the corner, and we've got Minneapolis on the 22nd, I believe, 21st of April. It's
Yeah. It's right after Birds and the Bees in St. Louis. Yeah.
Can you flush out the MCS at all for us, or can you give us kind of a heads up of what's to come?
So I know on Slack, you've been vocal with some other people. I'll tell you where we're at.
Yeah.
So in a little bit of backstory on it. So David Garzon from Chicago reached out to me and a few other, CIN people, and right after Bumble Bash 2, and said, hey, like, I have this idea of, all these Midwest teams, fighting for, something bigger, and having a series of tournaments that feed into a grand championship. And I wanted to be bigger than just this year. I want to see it at different scenes next year, and I want to see, give people pride in their city and give us reasons to drive around and become friends, because road trips are, one of my favorite things of Killer Queen is packing 5 people in a car and talking about Killer Queen for 16 hours.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, I'm all on board. And he had Feldkamp from Kansas City and Chaco from Minneapolis. In this initial group, we've this week we brought in some other people to have some conversations to help grow it. So Nathan Palmer's involved, Belly is involved, Zach Sanderson here locally is involved.
Mm-hmm.
He's the tech mastermind for CQ, and was the creator of the snow map.
Yeah.
And then did I say Billy? Billy's involved. Oh, yeah, I forgot him, but
who's Billy?
I don't know. From the one scene. Anyways,
you're right.
White guy with a beard. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I know that one in particular.
And so we are so close to having everything, all of our, because we're having these conversations. Okay, like, what does Wilkening want? Because he won't stop bothering us, and we're trying to listen to everyone and hear the concerns. I mean, I think that if we had all of us just sitting there every day working on this tournament, this stuff would have been out at Winter Cluster. It should have been, but we are where we're at. We want to do it, and you hit the nail on the head that our number one goal is that this isn't something that is exclusionary. It's a blueprint for the future, whether it's more regional, leagues, tournaments that mimic this, or that it's just rolled out across the nation next year. You've seen the growth. I mean, when did you start playing?
It's about 2 years ago now.
I know you. Yeah. So, I mean, Bumble Bash 1 was, my first national, and that whole year, like there were a handful of tournaments, but there weren't that many big ones. And last year, there just started to get this kind of momentum, and this year now, what constitutes a major? What is a major? How do you define a major? What's the point?
Yeah.
Why are we traveling all across the country? I mean, there's reasons, right? Friendships and all these, and competition, and seeing new cities, all these positive reasons to do it. But what's the point of playing on one person's team and taking second or first or 10th, or playing with a team of players from just your city? And what does that mean? So I think we're trying to give some reasons to why you're forming a team, and give something greater, something bigger to play for. So
yeah,
promoting traveling for some players, but then also like trying to have like a accumulated moment, I guess outside of Bumble Bash, because realistically, a lot of these teams that are going to play in the Midwest Series, one probably might not be able to compete at the top level in Bumble Bash, and considering it's in Portland this year, probably can't travel.
Sure.
It's a long distance for a lot of us. I mean, you guys know for sure you're about the farthest, not the farthest. Well, Jacksonville now, yeah.
Yeah, Jacksonville. They've got some Tryhards, it sounds like.
Yeah. So that's kind of in a nutshell the energy behind the Midwest Championship Series. And you can play in it. We have decided that you are allowed to play. We call it the Wilkening rule.
Hey,
I'm just kidding. We don't call it that. And other players can play in it from other scenes that are not Midwest. Our goal is that teams are majority Midwest, though. That's the number one. And specific to the Columbus Finals, Midwest teams will have preference, because I think we'll probably have a cap, on that tournament. So
for sure. I mean, I thank you for sharing all that with me. I'm glad to get your ear. It just I just had to entice you with a 30-minute interview before someone would explain anything to me. So I'm really just kidding. I really hope the MCS really does take off and succeed. And even if I'm not there,
I got a hot take right now.
Oh man! All right, let's hear it.
So while we're on this interview, the team sheet just went out for KQ25, right? One of the arguable majors of the year.
I mean, I think I don't know if arguable is the word. I would say certainly a major, but
okay. Top two tournaments of the year. Maybe let's say top two. I say it's top two as a Midwest player, but
all right.
Team 2 that was just formed: Dylan Conrad, Aaron Goldberg, Cody Fredrickson, Matt Feldkamp, Joel Zilka.
Pizza on my Nikes. Yeah.
Is that what Pizza's on my Nikes is?
Yeah.
Oh man.
What? Damn. That's not a hot take. I don't know what the hot take was.
Dylan's from Charlotte now. It's the first time a Charlotte player's been on the Cody Fredrickson team. I don't know. I'm stretching there.
People have been asking for sound effects, so I think I'm just gonna put like a big buzzer sound, big red X right in the middle there, just like, I like this. That. Maybe some air horns.
Yeah, please drop some air horns.
Yeah. You have any sound effects you want to toss in here?
Yeah, you need to have the sad trombone.
Oh yeah. I mean, you covered it pretty well, but like I might actually just clip that and just toss it in whenever I need it.
That works.
Yeah.
Pizza on my Nikes. I can't believe I did just look at the logos, 2 emojis of a pizza and a shoe.
Athletic shoe. Yeah.
Yeah. Dickheads.
Wait, what's the number one? What's the first team signed up?
Lev, Jen, Neil Smith, Matt Herring, David Garzon.
Oh, tight. I like it.
Yeah.
I gotta go sign up Team Break, I guess.
Here, I got you. Team Break.
Oh man, thanks so much. We only have 4 players right now, though.
Yeah. Can we talk about that? Am I allowed to talk about that?
I mean, yeah, we can talk about it, but like, we don't have, we have a pretty short list right now. We're playing with people, we're trying things out, because we really want to take a step back and dive into the game philosophy, because we're all coming into it from different directions. 3 of us played quite a bit with Damish in the past, and 3 of us played with BK in the past. You know, BK. I mean, Wyatt and Rob have played with both. I've only just recently started playing with BK, so I think sitting down and assessing what our goals are, what our priorities are, every time we step up to the cab and we play a game, um, and just rebuilding from there, and we can hopefully find weak points and flush those out, or flush those out. That's a weird word. Um, but yeah, I
The,
mean that's
the
the goal
word
for
on the
us.
street is Prashant's out.
Yeah, so Prashant had some conflicts with Killer Queen 25, and it looks like now he's moved vacation around, so he's gonna miss coronation. So it's, you know, Team Break will have to do without the magic. Uh, it seems.
And I hear Austin's in favor. This is what I hear. I hear
Austin's
on
on the short list. We're
the
looking at a
yeah.
few other players as well, though. So
Okay, all right.
it's a journey, but hoping we can nail someone down for um, Killer Queen 25, Coronation, Bumble Bash 3, and any other big tournaments that we decide to go for.
I love it. I really admire what you guys are doing, and I know that you've gotten some flack for just like forming the Tryhard team and having the Facebook stuff. But like what you do specifically with like the videos and just like even hot take, like building up the energy about like the game, because the energy's there, right? I mean, we all want this stuff, and I think why people are either throwing shade or like poking fun is because they want to be you. They want to be this.
Well, I mean, thanks, man. It means a lot to me, and same goes for you with close quarters. I think what you guys are doing over there is just remarkable, and I'm trying to get more New Yorkers to go, man. I really am, and I want to hold true on that promise to get FSU out at the next at the as soonest convenience for them.
I have harassed Charles because I love foiled. I want foiled at CQ so bad. I love that game.
Yeah.
We were baiting a couple years ago, and just every tournament we host, I'm like, Charles, can you come? Can you bring the game? Please come. But he'll come one day. He'll come one day.
No, yeah, he has to. He has to. I mean, I think we've covered a lot of good stuff. We didn't get to much Killer Queen, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a platform here to just kind of, what's your secret sauce? What is it that you do that you don't see others doing? What's the words of wisdom when you play Killer Queen?
One of the things I feel like I use, and I've honed it pretty well, is the ricochet, especially as a speed warrior. And the ricochet is a great striker attack.
Yeah.
But the better queens, the better warriors expect it, and so you have to think past it, and think okay, since they know that, how can you use the ricochet in a different manner? And I definitely have used it. It's a great movement tool. It's a great movement tool as a queen, and even as a drone. The half step. One of the things I've seen a lot of players drones right off the kickoff. A year ago we're doing the jump in the gun, and I've seen a lot less players attempt it, because if you miss it, it hurts you bad.
Yeah.
But I've really practiced where you actually ricochet off of the small platforms on the various maps, or the invisible gate that opens up. Yeah. And you can use that force to time your jumping of the gun. And I love it as a speed warrior as a way to like harass players and move around the map in a different manner, rather than in some kind of scraping and staying in one like obvious pattern.
Yeah.
And what other secret sauce? I was gonna say, like, for the newer players, deconstruct the game. I was talking to the Chattanooga players, and like, break down the little things, like, when you're trying to get up as a warrior and you get bounced out of the gate. Minneapolis is putting out some really good infographics and explaining some of the important tech to become a great player. Yeah. But being able to just go out there 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, we did that to level up some of the Team 2 players at Bumble Bash 2, where we were like, hey, okay, we're going to practice bouncing until everyone's up as a warrior. Then we're going to make you guys fight in the tunnel and practice pincering in the tunnel. Yeah. And we're going to keep doing this till there's no berries left. And, is that the entire game? No. But those skills are important in certain moments. If you can just practice those, or the night wrap, just fighting 1-on-1 in the wrap, up and down, it changes your vision of the map and changes how you view the game. In really a 1-hour session, you can do that. And then one of the big things I hear players that are really struggling are the ones that stop listening, that think they're good. None of us are great. None of us are the best. We're not, you guys are constantly getting better and you're the best, and so you have to, when you lose, just, learn from what you did wrong, learn from what you did right, watch your footage, even when it's bad, and listen to people. One of the things that I've been doing a lot is talking to the better queens and getting some tips, and learning on what I'm doing wrong, but then also talking about some of the issues I see and how they've dealt with that, the more experienced queens, specifically from Chicago. But I think those are important things, that as soon as you think you're the best and like you can do everything, you're the best speed warrior, best whatever, you stop learning. And as soon as you stop learning, you're not getting better at the game.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think all of that really, like, I could just clip the whole video, just those 5 minutes or however long that was, and just publish that as just like hey, how do I play Killer Queen? And that's some great stuff, man.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming on and chatting with me. It's so great to get the Columbus and the close quarters story out there, and to really just talk about everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
In your purview.
It's been fun.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to come back to Columbus. Y'all are wonderful people. I'm gonna interview some more people in time. But yeah, just again, thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We're calling it a night.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be it. Thanks everybody for tuning into the Hot Take. I'll see you again next week.
See ya.